Hey guys, so I'm reading. Actually, I'm past it, but I thought I'd read a chapter for you guys from A Caress of Twilight. By Laurell K. Hamilton. This is like the second book of the Merry Gentry series. But anyway, listen to this, okay? Because this series is amazing. It's great, but like the politics are just. I mean, there's politics, but there's you'll see. So basically, they went to see a crime scene or whatever. We're up to this point. It's not really important right now. In this part of the story. So yeah, they're getting back home, and like she has all of her men with her, and it's just one thing after another in her life. Anyway, let's go. So, this is chapter 24. The drive all the way back to El Segundo was out of the way, to say the least. But when Quito had woken up this morning, he'd had circles under his eyes like purple bruises. Quito is a goblin that she has with her because she has an alliance with the Goblin King or whatever, and he's kind of like, Quito is like his proxy or something. Anyway, right? So Quito had woken up this morning and he'd had circles under his eyes like purple bruises, and his pale skin had seemed tissue paper thin, as if he'd worn thin over the night. I couldn't see him walking around on the open beach with nothing but a press of sky above him. Once I knew the location of the scene, I gave Quito a chance to decide, and he'd opted to crawl back into his covered dog bed. The dog bed bothers me so much. Like, I understand this man is like 4 foot tall or whatever, and she's not having sex with him because we don't want him to be king, right? Basically, if whoever gets her pregnant in one of her guards gets to be king, and she'll be queen. But obviously, like, the bigotry and racism in the court, just like a goblin king would never be accepted, right? Even if he would be king in name only. But anyway, so they're not fucking, but he's still kind of hers now, so she has to take care of him. And yeah, so anyway, so where was I? I couldn't see him walking around. Wait, no, I read that part. Dog bed. Yeah, that's where I was. Like, really? Like, does he have to sleep in a dog bed? Like, I don't know. This is so degrading to me. Anyway. I walked up the stairs from the parking area, sandwiched between Frost in front and Reese in back. Frost spoke as we rounded the edge of the small pool. If the little one does not begin to thrive, you are going to have to send him back to Curag. Curag is the Goblin King. I know, I said. We went up the last flights of steps and were almost instantly at my door. I'm just worried about what Curag will send next. He expected me to be offended that he offered Quito in the first place. The fact that I took him and was okay with it really bothered him. By Goblin standards, Quito is ugly, we said. It made me glance back at him. He still hadn't regained his usual savoir-faire. He looked downright glum. I didn't ask how Reese, who understood almost nothing of goblin culture, knew what they considered pretty. But the she warrior, theirs for the evening, I was sure the goblins had given him only the most beautiful among them, by their standards. The goblins prized extra eyes and extra limbs, and Quito didn't fit the bill. I know. And he's not connected to the royal house in any way. Kirag expected me to refuse, and thus he'd have gotten out of our treaty. We were at the door. A small potted geranium, pale pink, was sitting by the door. Galen, which is like another one of the guards, had taken over most of the house chores, like searching for an apartment big enough for all of us and buying flowers for wandering fae to rest in. We'd have had a bigger apartment ages ago if price hadn't been a problem. But it was a very big problem to find a place big enough for all of us that we could afford. Most places had limits on how many people they'd allow to live there. And 6 adults was over that limit. I don't understand why. I mean, like, if they're paying you and they're not trashing the place, like, why do you care how many people are living under one roof? I mean, I understand if it's like a bunch of kids, poor kids, but like, even then, it's like, if that's all they can afford and they're paying you and they're like not breaking things or whatever, just like, let them be, mind your business, collect your check. Like, I don't understand. Anyway, where was I? Yeah. So yeah, 6 adults was over that limit. I was still refusing money from the courts because no one gives money without expecting something in return. I know that's right. Frost thought I was just being stubborn, but Doyle agreed that there was always a price on any favor. I was pretty sure what Undice's favor would be. Not to kill her son if I got the throne. Yeah, by the way, she's in competition with her cousin, which is the queen's son, for the throne. Whoever gets pregnant or gets someone pregnant first, because Kel is a guy, he can't get pregnant. So, like, yeah, whoever conceives first is promised the throne. The queen will step down because she's immortal, so she could just reign forever. But yeah, so she's fighting against, well, she's not fighting, she's just she's trying to get pregnant before he does, because he's a crazy son of a bee. And yes, his mother is a bee too. And like, if he rules, he'll like, he's crazy, like literally psycho, okay? Anyway, so and yeah, and he's been trying to kill her for like ever, which is why she ran away in the first place. And then now the queen brought her back talking about some, oh, I'll let you be, like, I'll protect you and blah blah blah. But like, are you really gonna protect her against your own son? I think not, ma'am. So yeah, but yeah, the favor would be not to kill her son if I got the throne, and that was one favor I could not afford to grant, right? Because if she lets him live, he's gonna keep coming after her. I knew that Kel would never accept me as queen, not as long as he was alive. That Undice didn't understand this was simply a mother's blindness. No, like, that's just her being woefully blind, okay? Like, I don't know, you can love your child and still, like, be realistic about how crazy they are. I think that's my personal opinion. Stop living in denial, people. Kel was a wretched, twisted being, but his mother loved him, which was more than I could say for my own mother. Yikes. True. Frost pushed the door open, entering first. He checked, and the wards had been intact. The sweet, clean smell of lavender and sage incense met us at the door. The main altar sat in the far corner of the living room so that everyone could use it. I didn't need the altar. You didn't need the altar. You could stand in the middle of a meadow or a woods or a crowded subway, and DT was always with you if you paid attention and if you invited it into your heart. But the altar was a nice reminder, a place to start out every day with a little communion of the spirit. People often thought that the she had no religion. I mean, they were once gods themselves, right? Well, sort of. They were worshipped as gods, but most she acknowledged powers greater than they are. Most of us bend knee to goddess and consort, or some variation thereof. Goddess is the giver of all life, and consort is all that is male. They're the template for everything that descends from them. She, especially she, is a greater power than anything on the planet, anything that is flesh, no matter how spiritual that flesh may have once been. Except for the thin trail of incense from the altar and a small carved bowl of water that had been added to the altar, the apartment looked empty. It didn't feel empty, though. There was a small skin-tingling of magic nearby. Not big magic, but more the everyday kind. Doll was probably on the mirror talking to someone. He'd opted to stay behind today and try to uncover more information about the nameless, which is not important right now. Okay, we'll talk about the nameless another time. Maybe not. Well, actually, the nameless is basically like this monster that was created when the she took all of their like most craziest, awfulest magic, and everybody gave like their most craziest magic, and then they made a spell, and then it like became like a creature, right? All the magic had to go somewhere. Like energy doesn't get destroyed, it goes somewhere. So it basically created like a monster, and then the monster has been released by somebody, nobody knows who, but the monster has been released and is wreaking havoc probably somewhere, killing people, right? So yeah, what was that again? Ma'am. Yeah, okay. He'd opted to stay behind today and tried to uncover more information about the nameless from some of our friends at court. Doyle's magic was subtle enough that he might go completely undetected as he moved around amongst them. I could not have done it. Reese locked the door and pulled the taped note off it. Galen's out apartment hunting. He hopes we like the flower. He pulled the second note from the door. Nika hopes to finish up the bodyguard job today. The actress is in no danger, Frost said as he began to slip his jacket off. I believe most sincerely that her agent put her up to it to get more attention for how do they say, flagging career. I nodded. Her last few movies were pretty much flops, both financially and artistically. That I did not know, but the media is there to photograph us more than her. She's taking you to all the hot spots where you are bound to get seen. I wanted to slip off the high heels, but we were going right back out to work. So instead, I walked to Keto's covered hidey hole and knelt down, smoothing my skirt behind automatically so the buckles of the shoes wouldn't snag my hose. I could see his back curled toward the opening. Keto, you awake? He didn't move. I touched his back and the skin was cold. Mother help us. Frost, Reese, something's wrong. Frost was at my side instantly. Reese hung back. Frost touched the goblin's back. He's like ice. He reached farther in so he could feel the pulse in the neck. He waited for too long. Maybe before finally saying, his blood does flow, but slowly. He reached in and began pulling Quito out from his nest. He came like one already dead, his limbs moving as if he was just dead weight. Quito! I didn't scream his name, but it was close. His eyes were closed, but it seemed I could see the vibrant blue of his pupils behind the closed lids, as if the skin was translucent. His eyes fluttered open, and a slit of blue showed before his eyes rolled up into his head. He was murmuring something, and I bent close to hear it. It was my name, Mary, Mary, over and over. He stripped onto his shorts, and I could see his veins through his skin, the muscles. A dark shape on his chest moved, and I realized that it was his heart beating. I could see it. It was as if he were melting, or I looked up at Frost. He's fading. He nodded. Reese had gone to the bedroom door and brought Doyle out. They gathered around us, but the looks on their faces said more than words. No, I said, it's not hopeless. There's got to be something we can do. They all exchanged looks. That fleeting, whatever. That fleeting game of glance throwing. Like the thoughts were too heavy to bear, and you had to throw them to the next person and the next. I grabbed Dole's arm. There has to be something. You do not know what would hold a goblin from fading. His mother was she. Save him the way you'd save another she. Doyle looked a little disdainful, as if it insulted him. Don't go all high and mighty on me, Doyle. Like, seriously, don't do that. Don't let him die because he's less mixed than either of us. His expression softened. Meredith, Mary, as she fades only if he wishes it so. Once the process is begun, it cannot be stopped. No, there has to be something we can do. He frowned down at all of us. Look at him. No, that's not what I said. I said that. Oops. Hold him while I try to contact Kurag. If we cannot save him as she, we will try to save him as Goblin. Quito lay still in Frost's arms. Mary needs to hold him, Dole said as he went for the bedroom. Frost laid Quito in my arms across my lap. I slumped to the floor, put my hand under his legs, and pulled him into my lap. He fit. Here was a man who I could hold in my lap. Mind you, she's like 5'1", 5'2", or something. So, and he's smaller than her. He's smaller than her, right? Well, like, shorter than her. I slumped to the floor. Yeah, pulled him into my lap. He fit. He was a man I could hold in my lap. I'd spent much of my life around beings smaller than Quito, but none who had looked so she. She is like their brand of, their type of fae. Because, you know, like, in fairy you have goblins, you have hags, night hags, you've got freaking demi-fae and pixies, and they're the she. They're like the royal bloodline type of fairy, right? They're like at the top of the food chain, basically. Alright, so I spent much of my life around being smaller than Quito, but none who had looked so she. Maybe that was why he seemed so dull-like at times. I lay my cheek against his icy forehead. Quito, please, please, come back. Come back from wherever you've gone. Please, Quito, is Mary. He'd stopped murmuring my name. He'd stopped making any noise. And his weight, the way his body slumped against me, he felt dead. Not dying, but dead. There's a weight to a dead body that the living, no matter how sick, do not have. Logically, it has to be the same, but it never feels the same. I don't know. I've never held a dead body in my hands before. So I wouldn't know. And I pray to God I never have to. But I probably will someday. Dole came back out, muttering under his breath. Curag is not near his mirror or any still body of water. I cannot reach him, Mary. I'm sorry. If Quito were she, what would you do to save him? The she do not fade from lack of fairy, Dole said. The she fade only when they wish to. I held Quito's cold body in my arms and felt the beginnings of tears, but tears wouldn't help him, damn it. I needed to talk to Curag now. What was one thing all goblins had on their bodies at all time? Give me your blade, Frost. What? My blade is trapped under Quito's body. I need a blade now. Do as she says, Dole said. Frost didn't like doing anything he didn't understand, but he took a knife from behind his back, one that was almost as long as my forearm, and handed it to me hilt first. I took my hand out from under Quito's legs and said, hold the blade steady. Frost dropped to one knee, steadying the blade with both hands. I took a deep breath, placed my finger against the point, and jerked downward. It took a second for the blood to well. Mary, stop. Hold the blade, Frost. That's all you have to do, so do it. You can't hold the blade in Quito, too. Just do it. For real, like, why are you so stubborn, sir? Like, this is urgent, and you're over here questioning, and like, stop it. Just, ugh. Jeez, so stubborn. He frowned, but stayed kneeling, holding the blade as I drew the bleeding finger down that shining surface. The blood didn't coat it, just stained it, almost beating on the immaculate surface. I dropped the shields that kept me from seeing spirits, kept me from shedding magic like old body skin. The magic flared for a second, glad to be free. Then I willed it into the blade, and I pictured Curag, his face, his voice, his rough manner. Curag, I call you. Curag, Thousand Slayer, I call you. Curag, King of the Goblins, I call you. Thrice called, thrice named, come to me, Curag, come answer your blade. Girl, okay, you know what? Wouldn't it be nice if we could do that? Like, just, you don't need a phone. You just need some magic, like. The surface gleamed through the light lattice work of blood, but it was just metal. No, she has called a goblin by blade in centuries, Reese said. He won't answer. The naming of three is very powerful, Dole said. Curag might be able to ignore it, but few others of his people could. But I have something he won't ignore. I leaned close to the blade and blew my breath warm upon it until it fogged with the heat of my body. The blade glittered through the fog, the blood. The fog cleared and blood soaked into the surface as if it had been drunk. I was left staring into a dim silvered surface. A blade, even the highest quality, is not like a mirror, no matter what the movies show. A blade gives an uncertain image, misty, as if you need to adjust some button or knob, but there is none. There is only a vague outline of a small portion of a person's face. Their eyes are the most clear. A blur of yellow lump-covered skin and two orange eyes appeared in the downside blade half. The upper was less clear, but showed Curag's third eye like a dim sun seen through clouds. Oh my God, what is wrong with my nose? His voice was as clear as if he'd been standing in the room. It boomed out in a surprising rumble that made me jump. Meredith, princess of the Sidhe, what was your sweet breath? Was that your sweet breath that blew across my skin? Oh my God, sir, listen. Already flirting like that. Greetings, Kirag, Goblin King, and twin of Kirag, Goblin King's flesh. Greetings also. Kirag had a parasitic twin who consisted of one violet eye, a mouth, two thin arms, two thin legs, and small, though fully functional genitalia. That's just... oh my god, it's just creepy. Imagine you don't have a body. You just have like two little arms, a mouth, one eye, and like two little legs that don't work because you ain't got a body. Like, you don't have a body. Jesus. You don't have a body. This is insane. Oh my god, it's creepy. But you have a... really? Like... anyway. And how is it functioning? Like... another thing too, like, does that mean when one gets hard, the other gets hard? Or is it like separately? Like, because clearly you... I don't understand how that works. Plus, like, does that mean you have two brains? Because, like, in the story from before, like, she's explained it, like, the hands can do other things while Kirag is being busy. And girl, I'm telling you, this book just... whew, okay. The mouth could breathe but not speak, and to my knowledge, I was the only one who ever acknowledged his existence as separate from the king's. I still remember the horror I felt when I realized there was an entire person trapped in the side of Kirag's body. Jesus. It had been long since she has called the goblins by blood and blade. Most of the warriors who fought beside us after the great treaty have forgotten this old trick. My father taught me many tricks, I said. Kirag and I both knew that my father had often contacted him by blade and blood. My father had been Undice's unofficial ambassador to the goblins because no one else wanted the job. My father had taken me to the Goblin Hill many times as a child. His laughter did not so much roll out of the blade as roll through the room. What would you have of me, Mary, daughter of Isis? He'd offered his help, and that was what I needed. I described the condition we'd found Quito in. He's fading. Kirag cursed in the guttural language that was High Goblin. I understood only about every other word. Something about black tits. The mark ties you together, you and Quito. Your strength should sustain him. His hand passed over his face like a yellow ghost in the blade. This should not be happening. I thought of something. What if the mark healed over? The mark would not heal. It would scar, he said. It did heal, Kirag, and it did not scar. His orange eyes got very close to the blade and very wide. That should not happen. I didn't know that it was a problem to have it heal. Quito didn't say anything. A lover's mark always scars, Mary. Always. At least among our kind. I couldn't read his expression in that narrow piece of reflection, but suddenly he let out a great snort and said, "Has he been allowed to mark that white flesh only once?" I said. Only once, he said. "Yes," I said. "And the sex?" He sounded suspicious now. "The treaty demanded only that I share flesh. Sharing true flesh is more valuable among the goblins than sex. Gabriel's hounds take me. Yes, we value flesh, but what's a little bite without a little poke?" Sinking teeth and dig into flesh, Mary girl. That's the ticket. Oh, Lord. I can't. I'm sorry, y'all. Quito shares my bed, Kirag, and stays with me most of the time, touching me. He seems to need to touch me. If the touch of your skin was all he had, he dissolved into High Goblin again, which goblins rarely did. It was considered rude to use a language that the other person didn't know. My father had taught me some goblin, but it had been too long, and Kurag's use was too rapid for my rusty skills. When Kurag had black tits, I'm sorry, okay. When Kurag had ranted long enough, he paused for breath and spoke in a language we could all understand. The high and mighty she. Goblins are good enough to fight all of your wars, do most of the dying, but not good enough to fuck. I mean, when you put it that way, yeah. Snob much? Sometimes I hate you all, even you, Mary, and you're one of my favorites. I love you too, Kurag. Don't sweet talk me, Mary. If you'd have... I'm sorry, yo. If you'd have fucked Keto regularly, the mark would have scarred. He needs a constant supply of flesh to sustain him out in the western lands. Either true flesh or fucking. But his tie to you is too weak without it, and he is dying because of it. I looked down at the still cold figure in my arms, then realized he wasn't as cold. He is still chilled, very, but not icy. He's warmer. I said it softly, I think because I couldn't quite believe it. Doyle touched Kito's face. He is warmer. Is that you, Darkness? Kurag asked. It is I, Goblin King. Is he truly fading? I don't think Mary has ever seen anyone fading. He is fading, Doyle said. Then why is he warmer? If he is fading, then he should grow colder and colder. Mary has been holding him in her arms for time. I believe that is warming him. Maybe it's not too late then. Is he strong enough to fuck? He's barely conscious, Daryl said. Exactly. What do you mean is he strong enough to fuck? Like, he's not awake. Do you not understand? Like, so, like, just have sex with him while he's half dead? Ugh. Okay. You see what I'm saying? This book is just, it's something. It's something. Oh my god. Craig said a sharp word that I knew meant something that no goblin ever wished on another. Impotency. Jesus. It was their worst insult, one to the other. Can he tear her flesh with his teeth? We all stared down at the still form. He was warmer, though. He still hadn't moved at all. I don't think so, I said. Blood, then. Can he take blood? Kurag asked. Maybe? If we wiped it upon his mouth, we might get some of it into him, Dole said. If it did not choke him. He's a goblin, Darkness. He can't choke to death on blood. He's fading. Clearly, he's almost... Oh, this man. This goblin person, king. Does it have to be Mary's blood? This from Reese. I know you of old, Reese, and that silence had held a name that no one used anymore. You should come visit us again, she. The women folk still talk of you. That's high praise from a goblin female. Reese had gone very pale and very quiet. He made no answer. Oh my god, my nose is so itchy. I don't know what's wrong with me. What was that? Oh yeah. He made no answer. Kurag gave an unpleasant laugh. Yes, it must be Mary's blood. Later, if some of the rest of you want to share blood and flesh with Keto, feel free. The she are always good eating. Oh my gosh. He glared at me with those orange eyes. If the blood revives him, then give him flesh, Mary. Real flesh this time. His eyes suddenly grew huge in the blade. He must have nearly pressed his nose to the blade. You thought you'd get the goblins as allies for 6 months and not have to bed one of us. You shared flesh. So I can't say you lied about the alliance, but you pixied on the spirit of it. You know it, and I know it. I place my still bleeding finger against Quito's lips, painting them crimson as I talk to his king. If I take him to my bed, then he has a chance to be king. King of all the unseelie. That is worth more than a 6-month alliance. I know that's right. But, like, do we really have to bargain with your body, though? Like, why? I mean, I understand you don't really have power. Sorry. And allies and stuff. But, like, do we really have to, like... But then again, it kind of goes to show that when you are female, no matter the flavor of female you are, when you are female, or maybe should I say it's like when you are male, like no matter what flavor you are, like they're still willing to like buy us. You know what I'm saying? Because like the thing, how I feel is this: sex work or any type of trafficking, any type of like exchanging your body for some type of advantage or gain or whatever. Notice how, and I mean, I know there are exceptions to the rule, but notice how it's rarely us doing it. It's always the men. It's always the men. Like, we don't see them as I don't know, we don't see them as bargaining chips, but they always see us as bargaining chips no matter the flavor. And I know like they're like theory, right? They're not real. But I don't know. It goes to show like the male psyche is always looking to possess us one way or the other. And like, it's not always necessarily a bad thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, if everybody is consenting, like, do your thing. But it makes you wonder, you know? It makes you wonder. Anyway. So, where was I? Girl, I went off on my tangent and then I lost my place again. Yeah, if I take him to my bed, then he has a chance to be king. King of all the unseelie. That is worth, and yeah, there's the Seelie court and unseelie court. Basically, there are 2 courts of fairy. Like, it's just divided into 2 courts. Kind of like, not 2 nations, but like 2 sides, I guess. Because you have nations within that, right? Because you have like the pixies and the demi-fae, and the demi-fae have their own queen, the goblins have their own king, the slua, which is like the nightmare-ish type, like the ones that look like monsters, they have their own king as well. And then you have other types like brownies and stuff, and they're more Sealy court. So it's like, I wouldn't say two nations. Yeah, I would say like two sides, I guess. Two alliances, or like kind of like two federations. That makes more sense. Kind of like, you know, you have the European Union. Well, yeah, imagine there's like two unions. Anyway, the Sealy and the Unsealy. And she's basically princess in both courts, but since her daddy was Unsealy, the Sealy court kind of just snubbed her. Oh yeah, that's just for context. Okay, sorry. Kito's eyes flickered. His mouth made a small movement. I slid my finger over his lips between his teeth, and his body jerked once. Oh no, you won't get me that easy, Mary girl. Not that easy. You give him flesh like you should have done all along, and you get only 3 more months out of us. After that, your battles are your own. Kito began to suck on my finger like a baby, gently at first, then harder, teeth beginning to graze my skin. He's sucking my finger, Kirag. I'd take the finger out before you lose it. Oh. He's not in his right mind yet, and goblins can bite through iron. Oof. Okay. Yeah, take your finger out, ma'am. Miss ma'am, thank you. Kito fought me, his mouth trying to hold on to my finger. By the time I pulled it free, his eyes were trying to open. Kito, I said. He didn't react to his name or anything else, but he was warmer and he was moving. He's moving and he's warmer, I said. Good, very good. I've done my good deed, Mary. The rest is up to you. I looked directly into the blade again instead of down at Kito. You're just going to sit back and watch who wins, aren't you? What matters to us who sits on the Unsealy throne? It matters to us only who sits on the goblin throne. Joel's deep voice cut in. And what if Kel's followers were planning war with the Sealy? Dole knelt down, one hand squeezing gently but firmly on my shoulder. I think he was warning me not to interrupt. What are you babbling about, Darkness? I am privy to much among the She that the goblins do not know. You are not at court now. I'm not without ears. Spies, you mean? I did not use such a word. Fine, play the word games that you're all so fond of. But speak plainly to me. There are those at the Unsealy court who believe Undice is desperate to have Meredith named her heir. They believe having a mortal on the throne is the end of them. They are talking about going to war on the Sealy before they all become powerless mortals. Our strength comes from our kings and queens, as you know. What you tell me is enough to make me throw in my lot with Kel's people. If the goblins were Mary's allies, then no one at the Unsealy court would risk fighting against her. They dare to challenge the Sealy only because they assume they will have the goblins' support. What is it to us if the She kill each other off? You are bound by word, blood, earth, fire, water, and air. Damn, that's... You're bound by a lot of stuff. They said, make sure this man cannot get away with shit, okay? So we're going to use everything, okay? Anyway. You're bound by word, blood, earth, fire, water, and air to support the rightful heir to the Unsealy throne in all matters of strife. If Mary sits on the throne and Unsealy rebels fight against her while you sit back and do nothing, then your oath will come back upon you. You can't frighten me, She. The nameless walks the land again, and you think it is I whom you should be frightened of? There are terrible things far beyond me that will arise from the depths, descend from the sky, and take rightful payment from those who are forsworn by such oaths as you have taken. It is difficult to tell in the blurred image, but Kirag looked worried. I hear your words, Darkness, but Mary has fallen silent. Are you puppet master now. I tend your goblin, Kurag, and I have a better use for my tongue than telling you what you already know. I remember my oaths, girl. No, Kurag, that is not what I mean. The she may not bear tales to the goblin mounds, but you and I both know you have other needs. I did not say out loud that the lesser fae at court, some servant, some not, talked to the goblins, sometimes for a price, sometimes for the feeling of power it gave them. My father had given his word never to tell of Kurag's system of spies. I had given no such oath. I was free to reveal the goblin's secrets, but did not. Speak freely, princess, and do not toy with this old goblin. I have spoken as freely as I intend to, Kurag, goblin king. He blew out a loud breath. Merry girl, you are too much your father's daughter. Isis was my favorite of all the she. His loss was great to all the courts of the Unseelie, for he was a true friend to many. That means a great deal coming from you, Kurag. I didn't thank him, because you never thank an old fae. Some of the younger ones are cool with it now, but it's an old prohibition among us. Almost a taboo. I never understood why being thanked was an insult. How is this an insult? If somebody knows, please let me know. Because, I don't understand that. Why? Why would that be an insult? I don't get it. Somebody's showing you appreciation, recognition, gratitude, and you're taking it as an insult. That makes no sense to me, but okay. Yo, my nose is about to fall off. Do you honor all the oaths your father gave? No, some I did not agree with, and some I know nothing of. I thought he told you everything, Kurag said. I am not a baby anymore, Kurag. I know that even my father kept his secrets. I was young when he died. Some things I wasn't ready to know. You're wise as well as luscious. How sad. Sometimes I'd have liked you better if you'd just been a little more stupid. I like my women less bright than I am. Oh my god. Oh my god. Ugh. Kurag, you old charmer. I can't. He laughed then, a true laugh, and it was contagious. I laughed with him. And as the eyes began to fade out of the blade, he spoke. I will think on what your darkness has said, and what you have said, and even what your father said. But you must give true sustenance to my goblin, or in 3 months I will be free of you. You'll never be free of me, Kurag. Not until you fucked me. Jesus. Or that's what you told me when I was 16. Why would you talk to a 16-year-old like that? Oh my gosh, you old pervert. He laughed, but at the end he said, I used to think things would have been safer if you'd agreed to be my queen, but I'm beginning to think you're just too dangerous to be allowed that close to any throne. Oh. I mean, that's a good thing, girl. Yes. Let them think we are dangerous so they don't mess with us. Thank you very much. But then again, they'll probably try to kill us because they think we're dangerous. Let's get rid of us. Anyway, that was chapter 24. I'm going to stop for now. This book is great. Right after this, they had some magical sex, which caused a damn earthquake. But, I'm going to let y'all read the book. And, yeah, if any of you have read the book, let me know what you thought about it. And comment below, share. And, yeah. See you guys later. Bye.